Many of you know that I've been working on the Community Solar Act now and solar policy and implementation because I see the promise of solar energy. I see it as a form of culturally appropriate development and economic diversification for tribal nations. But more importantly, on an emotional note, and it's hard because I hold this subject very dear, but with climate change, I worry about the sustainability of our native cultures. I worry about our youth. I worry about people my age and younger. And for so long, energy extraction has been to the detriment of Native people. And I really think we have a huge opportunity to change that. So I understand the critical role that energy policy plays in that. For this reason, I started Sovereign Energy. So we are a nonprofit, brand new, and I seek to center tribal energy sovereignty and Indigenous voices within the renewable energy transition. But I also work with affordable solar following the passage of the Community Solar Act. And I work as tribal and community liaison, and with such a successful piece of legislation, I think many of us have seen, and tribes have seen developers come in and, try to take advantage of this opportunity. And I really wanted to stand by someone where I could support them and hand that relationship off to tribes and feel good about it. I had a lot of difficulty trusting them, all of these developers, and now I'm working with Affordable Solar to help set best practices. I believe that we can create a new standard of how to work with tribes, which is what we're doing here today. I went in with a bold move asking for a big conference, and I'm really grateful that they supported it. I saw a huge need to really focus on the education of this. What does it mean? How do tribes feel comfortable with it? How are we actually being transparent in the process? So I will go over a little bit about why this is actually a really big opportunity and try to keep it short. And so we heard from Senator Stefanik earlier. I do not have a clicker. So we heard from Senator Stefanik earlier about the Senate Memorial, and we had tribal participation in that whole process. But more importantly, and I'll try to keep this definition brief, but we worked with the Tribal Community Solar Task Force, and we were active participants in the Senate Memorial 63 Working Group. We met every, I don't know how to work this clicker, but we met every 2 weeks. And our objectives were to make the best bill possible, really. So we talked about everything that had to do with community solar. We talked about for tribes who are in IOU territory or tribes who are in rural electric co-op territory, how that will work. We talked about definitions and what it actually means to write it into policy so that tribes will be able to take the most advantage of this act. We wanted to cover all of the bases. Pilar Thomas, who you'll hear from next, was our legal counsel. And we actually had policy recommendations written out with legal reasoning for all of them to exert tribal sovereignty. And I'd be happy to share those with you. They're very cool, but I really think it's a monumental piece of legislation, really setting the standard for the rest of the country. And also very grateful that we had Senator Stefanik and many other co-sponsors who were so supportive of these recommendations too. We really need, with the state energy regulated grid, we really need our legislators and our tribes to work together on these issues. So I will actually try to skip this since I don't want to run over on time. But these are the key features of the bill that do not apply to tribes. So you can basically look at this as, we're not part of this, which is why it's such a monumental act. The rest of the program for the state is constrained. They have 200 megawatts, they have 5 megawatt facilities. That doesn't apply to tribes. We're sovereign nations. We have exemptions in the language for all of these mandates. And you will see this in your flyers, but some of the provisions that we have are basically exemptions from everything that I just said. So tribes can build projects as large as they want, depending on interconnection, depending on maybe technical constraints, contractual constraints, but tribes have that independence. We don't have to follow subscriber guidelines. We can have them serve tribal, whatever sort of building, casinos, enterprises, households. However the tribe sees fit, we can fit that into these facilities. And also RECs. So the rest of the state is not able unless it's a tribal project, they have to transfer their renewable energy credits to the state. Tribes do not have to do that. We're able to monetize those, which is another piece of economic diversification. So there's a lot of compounding pieces that come together that make this a really huge opportunity for tribes. And I really want to congratulate all of us, because this bill would not also have been so successful if it weren't for the tribes. I think we really saw a lot of lobbying power. We saw tribes exerting their sovereignty. We saw the Pueblo of Jemez, the Pueblo of Laguna, the All Pueblo Council of Governors coming together and supporting this piece of legislation. And that really, I think, is what helped us get over the threshold. We had 4 years of trying to get this through, and we finally did it. So congratulations to all of us. It's a big opportunity. I myself really hope that this is the start of my generation and the next generations having access to clean energy, to my grandma having a subscription to a community solar array, so she knows what I've been talking about for the last however many years. And I now have the honor of introducing Pilar Thomas, who served as our legal counsel. So thank you, everyone. I'm really glad you're here and that this is such a successful event.